Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Well, thank you for being here with us today. We're going to get started here in a minute. Welcome, welcome. See those numbers popping up. Thanks for being here with us this morning. We're glad you're here. We're glad you're here to celebrate and Jono, learn from him and have some engaging discussion. We look forward to hearing from you. So we are live and we are going to let some more people in. For some of you that are on the West Coast or on another continent, we would love to hear you. Put it in the chat. Let us know if you are outside of South Florida. We'd love to get a sense of where folks are from. I know just from looking at the RSVP list, I don't know if they've popped in yet, but we have folks from Seattle. We have folks in Santa Fe here with us this morning. And I know that we had some RSVPs from some folks in Latin America, and I think a few in Europe as well. So welcome. We are glad you are here wherever you are from, wherever you are currently at this morning. Good morning, Fritz. Good morning. Good morning. Dana from North Carolina. Great. Thanks for being here with us this morning. Hi, Alexa. Good morning. Good morning. From St. Pete. Great. Thanks, William. Anna. Oh, from on campus, so not far away. That's where I'm located as well. In the Mark building, for those of you who know campus on the Modesto main campus. Yvette, good morning. Urelis and Jennifer, good morning. Good morning. Oh, and another North Carolina from Cindy. Thank you. Good. Well, let us get started here this morning. My name is Nathan Hiller. I'm Executive Director at the Center for Leadership. And it is my pleasure to join you, to welcome you here with us today for an engaging discussion. We call this a leadership lecture, but it's not going to be so much of a lecture. We've sort of transitioned away from that as a general strategy, but so we're trying to be even more engaging, and we get a chance to hear from someone who not only is fantastic and is this year's award winner, but hear and not just sort of celebrate that, but actually hear and engage in some discussion that will involve you and involve me. So please hit us in the chat. A number of you have submitted questions ahead of time as well. So we're going to get to a number of those. But first, I want to introduce a fantastic board member at the Center for Leadership. We have an amazing board of advisors that help guide us and help us in many of our tasks. And Austin Hollow is with Florida East Coast Realty and has joined the board a number of years ago and has just been such a wonderful addition to our board. And he's going to introduce Jono. So Austin, thank you for your involvement with the Board of Advisors at the Center for Leadership. And thank you for your involvement with this very award. Austin.
All right, well, thank you so much, Nathan. So this Emerging Leader Award that we present today was developed to recognize a new generation of leaders who are providing innovative solutions to social and business challenges, as well as improving the quality of life in our community. Today, we are here to honor an individual who is part of this new generation of leaders. He's an educator at heart who recognizes the power of music education as a tool to harness creativity and mentorship in some of our most vulnerable communities. Through his activism and mentoring, he has positively impacted the lives of thousands of students in Miami-Dade County and also in Chicago. I am pleased to announce that this year's emerging leader is Mr. Jono de Leon. Jono serves as Chief Operating Officer for the Guitars Over Guns organization, an arts-based youth development agency connecting highly talented and trained teaching artist mentors with youth living in the most challenged communities of Miami and Chicago. Jono joined the Guitars Over Guns family in 2012, acting as a mentor, site coordinator, and director of education before stepping into his current role as COO, through which he is pioneering the next phase of the Guitars Over Guns tech infrastructure and national expansion. Named the Outstanding Master Student by the University of Miami's Department of Teaching and Learning in 2011, Jono earned his graduate degree in education and social change after joining Teach for America in 2007 to help close the achievement gap for high-need students in Miami-Dade County. During his 8 years in the classroom, Jono co-founded a guitar program that reached over 2,000 students, while serving as director of the Museums and Communications Magna programs, activities and athletics, and the enrichments department for North Miami Middle School. Passionate about the intersection of arts, education, and civic engagement, Jono also has served on the board of directors for Miami's Next Leaders since 2019, managing the capstone project for many years after being selected as a fellow in 2013. As Chad Bernstein noted in his nomination of Jono, he's immersed himself as an architect and student of best practices in education and social impact, specifically around the incredible power of music in developing social emotional capacity, self-expression, and an avenue for powerfully positive community-wide change. The recognition as an emerging leader in our community symbolizes the aspiration to transcendent leadership by engaging with society to create solutions in tangible and practical ways and to build a better world, as Jono has done at the age of just 36. At this time, it is my honor, on behalf of the Center for Leadership and Florida International University, to present the 2021 Emerging Leader Award to Mr. Jono De Leon. Please join me in congratulating Jono.
Thank you so much, Austin. Thank you so much, Nathan, and everyone at the center. I'm gonna show you this beautiful, beautiful award that I received. Y'all, this is an incredible day. This is a special day, and I'm really filled with immense gratitude, immense gratitude, because, you know, when I came to Miami in 2007 to be a teacher, you know, my highest aspiration was to build meaningful relationships with my students and use every tool in my arsenal to create a culture of learning, create a place where kids could feel seen and valued. And, you know, I never thought in a million years, if you asked me, that I'd have the career that I have now, you know, with the guitar in my hands and getting to work with an incredible team of professionals and musicians. And, you know, the thing about it that strikes me is that all of this, and I was kind of thinking and reflecting on it this morning, all of this is possible because of the trust that our community has in our vision for what's possible, right? At Guitars Over Guns, we believe that young people are capable of incredible things, and we believe that the pathway to that for many can be forged through mentorship and forged through opportunities to connect to your artistic self and have an opportunity for expression. And, you know, when I think back on hearing, you know, Austin share, you know, the different points of my professional career that have brought me from being a civics and U.S. history teacher to now, you know, it's a little bit astounding to me, and it still is, and something I'm very grateful for. And I think that the reason I was trying to think about why it is that I get to sit, you know, in this chair on this particular day with, you know, such an esteemed panel and get to say thank you for an award like this. And, you know, I think internally where that comes from is as a teacher, you know, my first and most important drive was to figure out how to do the next right thing, the next best thing for my students, right? And on the day or maybe 2 days before the school year started, and I met another fellow teacher that was a guitar player, you know, we had a crazy idea to put let's put some guitars in the hands of students, because there hadn't been an instrumental music program in our school for a number of years. And we thought, what a great opportunity to create a bond and create some closeness. And, you know, that chance to connect and bring kind of my authentic self to my classroom, that's all I really wanted to do. And what I found, and the reception that we received from the students was tremendous, and it was earnest, and it was exciting, and it felt important to continue to create a space. And that became the thing that I became, you know, really laser focused on doing, which was how do we use this classroom space? How do we use this classroom space as an opportunity for young people to kind of connect to their authentic selves? And, you know, as I think about that, compounded over the last 15 or so years, you know, if I could kind of communicate any message to any of the students, you know, from the university that might be listening, or any folks that are, you know, working in community and working on behalf of people or causes or missions that they care about, you know, I never thought in a million years that I would get to do what I do now. And the reason why I do was because I stuck true to that desire to continue to figure out what the next right thing was for my students. And then as that opportunity grew, and the Guitars Over Guns family, you know, was born thanks to the grit and determination of my partner Chad Bernstein and our board chair, his father Bob Bernstein. You know, that circle got a little bit wider, and that circle got a little bit wider, and then all of a sudden we had these professional mentors that trusted us with their time, trusted us with their talent, and trusted us with the opportunity to connect them with these incredible young people. And we learned a lot along the way. But I think that guiding light was, as you know, the situation gets more complex and we try to bring more people into, you know, into our sphere, how do we continue to figure out what's the best solution, and how do we continue to figure out, you know, how to uplift voices, right? People say that all the time I hear it said that, you know, organizations and folks that are working with young people, you know, are doing so to kind of give a voice. And, you know, at Guitars Over Guns, we kind of reject that notion, because our young people are coming to us, you know, with fully formed opinions and life experience and all these different sorts of things. And, you know, our greatest aspiration is to provide them with the mentorship and provide them with the tools and skills so that they have the opportunity to choose that next best thing for themselves, right? And you know, I think when I look back, even though that kind of future view was uncertain then in the classroom, the opportunity and the feeling you got back when you built community that mattered, because that's the thing that I think I personally I'm most proud of, is that we've developed a culture here in Miami and in Chicago, and now budding in Los Angeles as well, built a culture that at the center of it, we see the transformational power of our young people and what they can accomplish when they're put in community with mentors that truly care about them and want to help them make that next, you know, best choice for themselves. And when I think about what this award means, and to be, you know, an emerging leader, I love that title, because, you know, we're still figuring so many things out, and we are continuing to learn. And I think that being a learning organization, and, you know, myself trying to always be committed to, you know, developing how I can build my skill, build my, you know, compassion, and build all of these things so that I can continue to kind of pay that forward. It's really inspiring, you know, and when I thought about how to be able to share this, at the center of everything we do are our incredible students. And I wanted to share today with one student in particular, a young man by the name of Rudy LaFrance, who is one of the most important people in my life. Rudy is an incredible young man that I got to know when he was a 6th grader in my classroom. And I'm proud to say that I was maybe the first person to put a guitar in his hands and create an opportunity for him to connect with himself. And the explosion that followed in terms of his creativity, in terms of his personality, in terms of his own leadership has been tremendous. This young man has completely stepped into a path for leadership and a path for musicianship, artistry, that is unparalleled and has been such a beacon for what's possible for his peers. And for someone who I remember helping teach to drive, teach guitar, and share lots and lots of life experiences with, it means a lot. It means a lot to be able to, share this stage and spotlight with him, because at the center of everything that we do, are our incredible students. So, without further ado, I thought it would be only fitting to be able to share this spotlight with Rudy and let him share a bit about his talent. So Rudy, why don't you tell us how you doing today, and what are you going to play for the people?
Yeah, I'm doing good this morning. It's a very good morning to be here, in honor of Jono, like you said, first guitar teacher, 6th grade, that was about 11 years ago. And the journey, that I had with this man, up until now, I'm very grateful, I'm blessed. And yeah, so I'll be playing a song, an arrangement I made. I made this arrangement back in middle school around 8th grade year. It's my arrangement of John Lennon's Imagine.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rudy LaFrance.
Thank you, thank you.
Wow. That was unbelievable, Rudy. That was unbelievable. And he did some special things with that arrangement. As he said, the first time that he put it together was in eighth grade.
Yeah, eighth grade.
And I will never forget this. It was my first opportunity to record him and kind of use that as an opportunity to share his talent with more people, so they could kind of understand what our organization was all about. And sitting in my office at North Miami Middle School, we set up a camera that we borrowed from the broadcast communications teacher. And at the ripe old age of, I think you were 13 at the time, absolutely ripped. And to see that arrangement come, travel all this way and grow is what a beautiful mirror for how you've grown as a person, how you've grown as a musician. And I'm really grateful for you for sharing that with all of us today.
For sure. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Rudy.
Oh, thank you for having me. For sure.
So, Jono, I think we can move. Rudy, again, thank you. I mean, we're speechless. So, Jono, where do we go from here, right? I mean, so I think there's something I keep thinking about in our conversations, that there's something that's so compelling about what you about this award this year, and that has to do with your work. And I think it's because the message that I see of you and your leadership, this is the Emerging Leader Award. And again, emerging is kind of the wrong word, because it's sort of like, hey, it connotes potential, but that's not what, I think there's maybe great things ahead, but this also acknowledges what you've done. And I think the thing that is, to me, particularly compelling as I think about my work in helping leaders become more effective, is this misconception that leadership is only for people who are extroverts, or who are leading grand systems and have grand visions. And that really the crux of leadership is using your influence wherever it is in that moment, for a purpose. And that's accessible to all of us. And so you, in our conversations, you've talked about how you've talked about students, and particular students, and like, it's about the connection with those individuals. And that's accessible to all of us, right? We can all have an impact on other individuals. What do you have to say? I want to hear your thoughts about that.
I think people always, are familiar with that term now. They'll remember a little bit about what you say or about what they see, but more than anything else, people will remember how you make them feel.
Yeah.
Right. And I think what everyone in this Zoom universe just felt, while Rudy was sharing his talent with us, is it. That's an unforgettable thing. That's community, right? That's love. And I think that, like, as musicians and artists, right, all of our staff and all of our team have been building a craft, right? Building a craft for a lifetime, and chasing opportunities to continue to tap into that feeling. So at its very core, our organization hinges upon our ability to create a culture and a space for that feeling to be shared, right? Because it's just how transformative and how transcendent, to use your guys' words, that feeling is, and the power that it gives you is just indescribable. And that's everything, right? Because you it cuts across every line of difference, right? It's inclusive of every background, right? Everyone can tap into the way that that music makes them feel. And if we can capture just the slightest bit of that with mentorship, right? And bring young people in connection and community with each other and with peers that might be a little bit older, but have, walked the same halls and have faced the same challenges. And we can create opportunities for them to shine and them to experience what it means to then give that, use their own leadership and their own influence to support their peers, support people, younger than them. There's this virtuous cycle that continues. And I think that that's the thing that we're powered by, right? Because as we move through like this nonprofit ecosystem and we take kind of a wide lens, thinking about how what was first a completely volunteer effort, has grown into where we are now, and being able to work in community with school leaders and teachers and young people, all the way from the very top of Miami Gardens to the very bottom of the county and South Dade. Much love to South Dade. We find that the desire and the drive for community and for people to feel seen and heard and valued is universal. And so
is the music a way to access other things, or is the end result music, or is it both? So
that's right. I had this conversation with Chad yesterday, and really thinking about it.
So just so people know, who's Chad?
Chad is my partner, our CEO and president, and the absolute visionary behind everything Guitars Over Guns, and an incredible musician. If you were lucky enough to catch him with Swenelo or the Spam All Stars, if you heard great music in Miami, chances are Chad had something to do with it.
And Chad is here, and he's populating the chat. He said, "Emerging is the right word. We're always emerging to the next level." For good leaders, that is true. A lot of people are trying to make it, and then that's it. I think your words are right. He says you're leading the way with humility and grace, and I think that's right on.
Well, I appreciate.
So
that.
I derailed you, but I wanted to, because you mentioned Chad a few times. I wanted to just not everyone necessarily knows who we're talking about here. So yeah.
Important context. You ask an important question, right? Because people hear our name, and often if they don't know us at all, the thing that they might leap to is, okay, you're a guitar organization, but the reality is that our most important output is human development, right? It's sure, we teach people music, and there's a gift in that, but we use that as a vehicle to create these meaningful relationships, right? Because with the guidance of a mentor and with the kind of social emotional acumen that comes through having experiences and stretch experiences, there was a long time that we were doing this work before we had nomenclature for it. And I will never forget the first time reading kind of some of the seminal work in the field of social emotional learning, and feeling like we had stumbled across like the tablets from on high down the mountain, because it was like, finally we have a language for exactly what it is that we aspire to accomplish, which is that feeling of self-actualization that comes with being terrified of stepping on a stage, and then finding that your pathway to it, right? And then taking that healthy risk and nailing it, or maybe not, and learning to live to fight another day. Take those things back, with you, and then continue to try to see what else you can accomplish, and how much further you can push that envelope, right? So our most important, by every account, the most important thing that we do as an organization is create spaces for that social emotional capacity, that social emotional growth to take place. Because all of the research supports, right, that the single greatest lever to affect change in the life of a young person in a challenging environment is to have a stable relationship with a caring adult. But we try to take that a step further and say, if we can live up to the challenge of developing those sorts of peer and intergenerational relationships, right, then what we're left with is an opportunity to develop social emotional capacity that over long term will lead to developing the grit and determination for real lifelong change.
And I think that's the way, because I think that we talked about this too, that in a conversation about a month ago, one of the questions I asked you, and I think it was, fascinating. I said, well, let's play the role of a skeptic for a minute. That there's a lot of talk in the world of philanthropy or, nonprofits around non-inclusivity. In other words, there are people with a lot more access to resources, and it's sort of a closed world that makes decisions about people whom they are serving without including them. And so the result is well-intentioned, but way off the mark, sort of, no, let us tell you how you should spend the money and and this conversation is real, and it's happening in ways that it isn't. So how does Guitars Over Guns, and how do you guys think about sort of avoiding this, or making sure that you're actually serving? And I mean, I'm asking this skeptically, not that I'm skeptical about it, but I'm asking this sort of skeptically. How do you remain connected to avoid this sort of like, we're going to save people who are coming from different backgrounds, and that's, and we have all the answers.
Sure. That's a great question, an important one, frankly, for the future of philanthropy kind of period. But I want to dispel the notion of saving anyone, right? Our greatest call is to honor the communities that we serve, and to continue to try to find ways to genuinely bring them into the continued conversation, and to lift those voices up, right? And I think we learned as an organization from the very beginning that if we're going to mean what we say about being a student-centered and a student-first organization, then they better be at the table at every level of this organization, right? And I think about how that happened, and how we learned that, and how it continued to kind of knock on our doors as the pathway forward. And I remember a story that I shared with you about my last day in the classroom, when I kind of made the leap from teaching into full-time work with Guitars Over Guns. And my principal at the time had asked me, because I had made the transition at the very beginning of the summer, and he asked me, he said, while we're getting set up, can you please be with us on the first day of school, to be able to say goodbye to your students and kind of close that loop, which I was grateful for that opportunity to have one more day kind of with them. And something that happened that I'll never forget is my classroom has an exterior door, and has had an exterior door. It's not my classroom anymore. And the high school is just across the street. And one of the things that had started happening kind of organically at Guitars Over Guns is, as our 8th graders, were moving up to the high school, and we didn't yet have a presence at the high school. Those young people were hungry to continue the opportunity, right? And they would start to come back in drips and drabs to be what we now call peer mentors, right? And to share, and to kind of share their experience and share what they've learned with their middle school peers. And on my last day as a classroom teacher, about 5 or 6 minutes before the bell rang, I had a kind of a knock at that exterior door, and there were maybe 15 or 20 newly minted freshmen that had moved up from our program and were at the high school. And they were just so pumped to get to step into that role and step into that opportunity to say, well, we're the older kids now, and now we get to show a little bit about what we learned. And they were so hungry for that opportunity, you know, and I think it's because of, as we were talking about, like how it makes you feel when you can connect with someone in a genuine way, and all the better if music and artists is the way to do that. So that's been a guiding light for our organization, you know, and one of those young people from our era who is you know, a classmate of Rudy's, Gabriel Pierre is on our board of directors as a young person, right? And that's been a critical piece, because they deserve it. He deserves to have that level of access and that level of discerning, you know, decision-making power over the stewarding and directing the future of this organization, you know. And as we continue to think about what it means to grow this organization, you know, the single biggest thing that we want to be true to is, how do we honor that community root? How do we make sure, as you say, from a place of inclusivity, because, you know, we're lucky to live in such a special place here in Miami that brings everyone. And you know, if we can tap into the smallest bit of that and bring, you know, uplift more of those voices and create more opportunities for you know, people to see themselves at the table, then we're all better for it.
It's you know, there are some other cities like it, you know, and for Miami, for all its, you know, for those of you who live here or have been here, there's so many frustrating things about this city. One thing that is amazing about this city is that you can show up and make a difference, and you can show up and make a difference, and people won't say, well, you're not from Miami, you can't be part of it. And I think, you know, when did you move here? What year was it?
It was 2007. I started the 2000 school year here.
And that was when you were at UM then, right? At the University of Miami. And so
no, so I came here through Teach for America, and I taught for a number of years before joining what was then called the Education and Social Change Master's Program at UM.
So it's now been 15 years since you've been here, and you know, this is not the moment that demarcates that you've made a difference, but that you made a difference right from day one, and showed up and made this a community. I think it's pretty amazing to be able to do that. Are there additional challenges? So you know, expansion. Why expand? Why have you know, what do you get out of expanding and moving to other places? You mentioned LA, which I didn't know about, and of course I know about Chicago, but what is there some sort of plus side and downside, or how do you make that decision to go into a new place and potentially spread your resources more thin, or it becomes something different? What's your experience in sort of making that decision? What are the challenges, and why?
That's another really, really good question. You know, I think as we've done a lot of reflecting in the last maybe year and a half, you know, I think one of the silver linings of this global pandemic is, regardless, you know, if you're a person, if you're an organization, whoever you might be moving through the world, you're sort of forced to reckon with the space that you take up and the direction that you want to continue to move in. And you know, the short answer is, you know, is it challenging, or what are we considering? It's many things, you know. But I think what we're holding ourselves accountable to is the single most important thing for us is our student experience, and how are we continuing to then kind of cascade that down to the experience of the mentors, our incredible teaching artists that come in and trust that they're coming into a culture that has their back, right? And so when you say, like, how do we navigate it, I think it's coming from a place of, how do we make sure that we have as comprehensive and holistic of a view of what people really truly need to be successful. So when we think about, you know, moving forward into a new space, you know, sure, there's a financial consideration for you know, what we need to keep the lights on, as it were, right? But just as important to that are how are we going to develop the relationships? How are we going to show up authentically? And how are we going to earn that trust, right? With a new place. And now that, that becomes an interesting and challenging question. And it's one that we're excited to continue to grapple with because we know it matters, right? We think about why should we, right?
Yeah.
And someone put forth a resource to us and to chat a number of years ago that was called earning the right to scale. And it was something that kind of floored us and has been something that we don't take lightly because we're not willing to make decisions that are going to compromise the quality of the experience that we can provide for young people here and for our teacher, our mentors and teaching artists. And I think that as we've grown to scale within Miami and Chicago, that's been a microcosm of that learning, right? Because we've continued to understand that in order to do it well, right, we not only have to be able to provide the resources to do the work, but we need to take some time to really think deeply and holistically about what it means to show up authentically, right, in this space. And as a mentor, that also often means connecting with young people that are dealing with really challenging things. And, the sort of unseen elements of, what you take on, and I feel it viscerally because I can remember what it felt like in the classroom and having young people share, challenging circumstances that they might be dealing with outside the classroom or home or whatever the case may be. You don't do this work and then leave it behind you when you walk out of the session or walk out of the site, right? That's the stuff that keeps you up at night. And as we continue to think about, earning the right to continue to do it, for us, that also means, one of the proudest accomplishments, for our organization is, just this week, we were finally able to bring the director of our mental health program on into a full-time role within our organization, right? Because we see that as a responsibility and accountability that we take dearly to make sure that we are thinking holistically about what it means and to be able to sustain in this work means you have to be able to process all the different trauma and all the different things that you come across and recognize that everybody comes to this work from a different place, right? We're called for the same, the weight of that same feeling of connection, right? And that sort of intoxicating happiness that you get when Rudy's playing his guitar, right? That's undeniable. And that's what brings you here. But hopefully you stay because you feel that love and you feel the opportunity to be developed. And just like we want to develop our students to be able to make great choices for themselves and have access and opportunity to make great choices for themselves, we feel that same responsibility for our mentors that are on the front lines doing this work, right? And being able to acknowledge that every single person's life path has given them and afforded them unique perspective. And there might be things that they've experienced that other people haven't. And like as not, when you're working with young people, anything can happen. Right. And we take that really seriously. Say, well, if we're going to continue to hold this space, then we need to make sure that we are putting things in place to support that and to continue to learn. Right. And I think that, we apply that same logic to the notion of scaling the effort because we know it matters, but we want to do it very, very carefully.
Hit us up with some questions. If for those of you who are here joining us today, I want to give a shout out. We have a great contingent from all over, and I see email addresses from Baptist Health and a lot from FIU. We've got students, we've got faculty, we've got staff. One question that was asked is, can you remember a moment where you feel like personally, not necessarily connected to the organization, maybe it was, but where you feel like you just were like, uh-oh, I'm in over my head. Can I muster, can I really do this?
Yeah, I can. And it was the first day of school. it was the very first day of school, and you know, I had come with, you know, what I hoped to have been all the right intentions, right, and had come with like a university like education in teaching. My background and degree is in undergraduate degree was in history and education. And you know, then I went through the sort of spectacular Summer Institute teaching training in Georgia, in Atlanta, through Teach for America. And I said, okay, if I'm not ready now, then I'll never be, to kind of step into the classroom and take it on. And the very first day of school, my classroom was on the second floor, and this was my first year teaching was the very last year of the original building of the school that I taught in. So I'll say graciously that it was a good thing that it was the last year that building was in service, because it had some challenges. And being on the second floor of an old building like that in Miami was very hot and was maybe not the most hospitable place. And I will never forget the concept of bringing my students to lunch was not something that I thought was going to be the hardest part of my day. But then introducing the notion of leaving the classroom, going outside, and then walking around to another building, I was not prepared for the freedom that young people might face when they step outside a building, and being told by, I won't repeat their words, but a young person that decided that they didn't need to be with us, with our class, or even be going in the direction of the class, of the cafeteria at that particular moment. And what they decided to say to me in front of my whole class on the very first day of school was a moment I'll never forget. And I certainly thought to myself, can I do this? Do I deserve to, right? And I will never forget the sage advice of my principal at the time, Mr. Michael Lewis, who continues to be an incredible leader for Miami-Dade County Public Schools, now, at the district office. But, he walked down the hall with me and kind of put his arm around my shoulder at the end of that day. And he said, listen, like, you've got a future here and you've got talent. You care a lot. He said, don't let an 11-year-old run you off your job. And I think I slept on that and came back ready to go. And, it became my mission to then figure out how do I connect so that people in my students in my classroom would see me and not just see another name on their schedule and another person that's going to talk at them until the bell rang. So
is that a good way, as we look at closing out here in a few minutes? What advice do you have for other people? I have so many notes. There's so many things that I'm taking away. For me, I'll tell you that I think this is a great reminder to how am I connecting? How am I connecting? So but what a number of people have asked, they said, do you have any advice for someone who's, in their early 20s, or like, what do I, not only for leading, but just sort of in general?
I mean, I think what I began with is really this notion of, when I look backwards at my career and I see that pathway, it seems very linear, right? But when I was 22 and I was facing, sixth graders and seventh graders and eighth graders that would make me shake in my boots because of the confidence that they walked through the world with, and I wasn't going to tell them the first thing about what they needed to do. My instinct was, how do I connect, right? And when I think about that, like over a long term, that message became like, what's the next right thing that I can do, even in the face of how challenging this might be, or how tall the mountain seems, or how many more mountains are behind it, for that matter. And I think I was lucky enough to have a wonderful support system, in my brother Justin and sister-in-law Anna, who were also teachers at Dade County at the time, and would listen to me and kind of support me through those first couple of days, and that those first years. And I think about now, because I had that support system, I could continue to recenter on, okay, well, what's the next right thing that I can do, right? And it came down to this notion of locus of control, right? Because if you think about how vast and enormous and complex and multifaceted the challenges are of education and poverty and systemic racism, right? And all of the different challenges that divide us, right? It can be really, really muting. It can be a really sort of isolating experience to think too deeply on how big that is, right? But if you think about what your zone is and your sphere of influence,
that's great.
How can I show up for my immediate people?
Yeah.
Then that's the thing.
I love it. And maybe that is really the only way to have a significant impact, is how do I show up and make a difference with the opportunities that I have in front of me right now. We didn't even get to, of course we never do get to all the questions, but I want to thank you, Eduardo. I see your question, and Katia, I see your question too. We always want to be mindful of people's time, but I want to again congratulate you and just also thank you for a really, really interesting conversation and a conversation with depth and I wasn't expecting anything different, but what I appreciate is, this isn't about platitudes of like, let's just make a difference, let's wrestle with these things. And actually, if we're trying to have an impact, how do we do it? And how do we wrestle with the struggle of how we lead an organization where we have to think about things in a complex way. And so this isn't pie in the sky. Oh, that's great. Let's help people. It is that, but it's also with a dose of realism and just really interesting wisdom. So I want to thank you for your, I think Chad said it well, humility and grace. I think that really shines through, and we're just thrilled to have an opportunity to present you with this award. And thank you for spending some time with us. And obviously a huge shout out to Rudy as well, and all the other students who weren't on today, who are doing similar kinds of things. So just as a closeout here, I want to let you know, for some of you, this may be the first time you've interacted with the Center for Leadership. We are passionate about helping individuals find small adjustments that can have a big impact in their leadership. And so we have programs for individuals who are just thinking about leading and they're not quite there yet. And most of these folks are from outside. Our mission here at the center is both inside the university, but outside. These programs are for folks outside. And we have programs all the way up to director and VP level that are coming up. The high impact leadership program is one that is now in its 11th iteration for director, VP level folks. And we also have a program specifically for managers. So there's a lot of things we do at the center. This is one of them, these open enrollment programs. Thank you for spending your rare and valuable time with us today. We look forward to seeing you again on a future event, and lead well, stay well. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.